Just got off work, did my 7 days of 12-hour shifts. And it's time to start tinkering away at this. Done a little bit of stuff, but back it up out the door, lift the bed off of it with the engine hoist, and then roll it back in here. Just the frame, uniframe, and I can start measuring where I'm going to put my rear axle and planning out how I'm going to do all my tubes and my sliders on the rock rails there. The cab looks to be in pretty good shape. Like, all the corners on this side and that side look decent. So this thing hasn't been beaten too much yet. Everything that you see is missing is the parts that were messed up anyway. This front part was kind of messed up, but I got plans to do something with that later on anyway. Bed, on the other hand, looks like it's been used for, as a farm truck. We got pretty decent dent in the tailgate. So if I reuse this bed to chop it down and make a shorter one, may have to do a little work on that stuff. But, and again, maybe I won't because the rest of the body will end up looking like that too, depending on how much I get done with tubing. Anyway, here's my 5.3. Decided to mount the LS6 intake backwards, and cutting away at a hole to go through the firewall. That hole will come through there, 90 degree over, and into this cooler, which, if you have a Cherokee or Comanche, you know that the air conditioning source of outside air comes in through this cowl right here, which is covered above it, and the air actually comes in from that side over there. So, cold air intake, technically, not how cold it is. Put on these ICT brackets. Doing my research, this O2 Corvette pump should be 1200 psi, just like the Saginaw pumps were. But if it's not, I can buy the PSC pump. This uses the stock. This setup here with the ICT brackets uses the stock tensioner. It just relocates it down to here. Then, of course, the alternator is on the opposite side as well. So I bought a standalone harness for this engine to run with the stock ECM, but it's wired and loomed. It was wired and loomed to have all the plugs in the original location, like the stock location. But since I've swapped this over, you have to change 4 plugs and locations and get extensions, and then you have to get an extension for the alternator. So what I did was unloomed it, and I broke it all down and reloomed it with where the plugs are supposed to be. And so I've got that going on. I'm going to have to block off the oil port because that's in the way of the throttle body. I got to make sure that I have clearance for my electrical plugs, and this I've already So for this, I've already whacked with a hammer. Really good right here, and I've got enough clearance right there. I'm going to make a hole right here for the standalone harness to come through. Got a lot of more cleaning up and welding and filling up holes to do in the engine bay. I may redo this. I don't know if that looks very nice, covering this with just sheet metal and rivets, especially not this one. I may patch that and do a little welding practice. Most of these holes. Brake booster. My aftermarket throttle cable will fit right on here. Fill the. I'm not sure if I'll fill this and cap it off, or just cap it off and save it, because there's a possibility that I may decide in the future to not go with the 4L60E and go with more rugged standard transmission like this old Ford T18, which would match the axles that I bought for this truck. God, this place is such a mess. It's the first thing I'm going to do. Let's clean up this mess. Anyways, the big bearing Ford 9-inch, and back here is the Dana 44 off of a 1974 F100 with the weld-on style wedges. They already have disc brakes. This thing's going to end up getting gutted. Need ARB lockers for them. Possibly 35 spline shafts in here. Disc brake conversion. Trusses for both. There's my 241. There's my 231. Anybody who might want this, actually. But what else do I gotta do? I gotta tear down my transfer case. I gotta tear down my transmission there. The engine I shouldn't have to tear down. I'm gonna start it and listen to it, and if everything is good, I'll leave it alone. If not, if I have to pull the engine apart and inspect it and overhaul it, then I'd probably end up putting a cam in there. What else to say? So while I was still at my sister's farm, I installed this Iron Rock Off-Road 3-link kit, and if you've never seen one in person, the pictures and videos that you see of these things do not do it justice. The lowered arms are like 2.5 inches thick, and it's beefy. And what else? Comes with the transmission support cross beam, cross member. You can see it laying back there. And you're able to drop that and get your transmission worked on and stuff without dropping the links. That's a plus. I did end up denting this to clear the steering shaft, the driver's side. I bought these two adapters that go from the 4L60E or GM transmissions to AN6 fittings, so that I can put an external fan. I've learned my lesson with the 4L60s that in stock form the Chevy radiators will cool the transmission fluid just fine. But if you're pushing it really hard, or you've upgraded your transmission, it'll burn through those clutches at about 10,000 miles. So, inside the truck, mostly, except for this part here, because I might deal with this rust a little bit, I did put bed liner all over the cab. I still have to touch it up a little bit. I started mocking up somewhat of a dashboard, and I've got these razor seats in here, which aren't that comfortable, and everyone should know that, but the idea was I get the steel razor seat mounts, and in the future I could buy some PRP seats, which should be direct replacements for these. At $600 a piece, I've been looking on the Facebook Marketplace and such. That's $1,200 for this truck, just so you could sit in it. And I know it's a safety thing and all, but these aren't even tied into a cage or nothing, so worry about that when I get to it. This needs to, I have a painless wiring kit to go in here, and that's really nice because these wiring kits come labeled with where each wire goes and what corner of the truck they go. On every foot of the wire it has that, so I was pretty impressed. It's worth the money if you're not that great with wiring like me. I need to figure out shifters. I need to buy a Sidewinder shifter, JD Customs single stick transfer case shifter, and then some cutting brake master cylinders to go in here. And that's about it. That's all I've done. I've had this truck for maybe 3 years and just been picking away at it because I've been working in the dirt. My sister was nice enough to lend me a little spot on her out there by the horses, and it's been nice not having to rent a space or buy a house in the bottom of the market. But I ended up getting this place, so Jeep's been in here less than a week in and things already look like this. Go figure. So next thing to do is to get everything all cleaned up, and I'll get back at you guys.